Let's call our meeting to order. We need to do a roll call.
Chairman Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Here.
Mr. Delory,
Here.
Councilmember O'Sullivan,
Here.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Here.
Mr. Formicelli.
Not present.
Okay.
I think he may be a little bit late tonight.
Okay, he's expected but not present currently.
Yes.
Mr. Stern,
Here.
Ms. Balson Alvarez is excused for the evening, as is Ms. McNeil and Mr. Bell.
All right, great. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the board in preparation of the 2022 annual meeting notice, which sets forth the date, time, and place of this meeting, and by properly posting such notice and forwarding the notice to those designated newspapers and persons requesting meeting notices. Please be advised that this is a non-smoking building. Fire exits are to my right, your left, and the back of the room. This is a scheduled meeting of the planning board. There may be other meetings currently running simultaneously with this meeting. If you're not here for the Summit Planning Board, your meeting may be upstairs or elsewhere in the building. All right, we go to our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so first thing on the agenda tonight is first and only hearing tonight on 19, 23, and 27 Edgemont Avenue. Liam and Suzanne Carr for a minor subdivision with a C variance for bulk. Council President?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, James Weber of Alfonso and Weber on behalf of the applicants. This is an application for a lot line relocation on Edgemont. I'm going to be referring to the lots by the tax lots rather than the addresses, so that the flurry of numbers that you hear coming up do not end up confusing the record. With regard, the applicants, the Carrs are in London. The Shepherds, through whose generosity and reasonableness we've been able to have this application brought before you, are in Virginia with the birth of their granddaughter. And then Shannon Mahaney, who's the other property owner, is in Manhattan dealing with the end of the year business. So you'll have to deal with me and the expert for the presentation tonight.
Okay. Have you done this before? I think we're in good hands.
So what we have is 3 lots on Edgemont, and those 3 lots are shown here in the key map. And as the board is aware, the standard in the DRO is to have the side lot lines be at right angles to the straight streets. In this instance, you can see that the lot lines are at an acute angle to the street. So when we therefore go to a expansion of the plans, you can see that we have the 3 properties. On the left is lot 27, Shannon Mahaney's property. In the center is lot 26, that is the Carr's property. And then to the right is lot 25, and that's the Shepherd's property. As you can see, it's through the generosity and reasonableness of the Shepherds that will allow this to go through, because they have the area that's available here to allow the lot lines to be shifted over. As I try to, there we go. So we go, this is the plan that's been prepared by Andrew Clark, and you can see the shaded area. This is the area here that's being conveyed by the Shepherds to the Carrs. And what that does is allow for the Carrs to have a side lot line that is as close to a right angle as possible. The existing corner of the Carrs property over here is less than 1 foot from the side lot line, 0.9 feet. With the adjustment in the side lot line between the Shepherds and the Carrs, that will be a side yard of approximately 10.35 feet. So it's not the 12 feet that's required in this zone, but certainly better than less than 1 foot. Likewise, as we go to the back of the property, and we see the garage here, the garage is currently 6 feet from the side lot line, which would be allowable if it was in the required rear yard. However, it's not in the required rear yard, so it's subject to the same 12-foot side yard setback. It's at 6, they're going to be at 11, but we're short that 1 foot, so there's a variance associated with that. Likewise, even though the cars are increasing the side yard from 0.9 to 10.35, the combined side yard does not meet the standard of 35% in the zone. I also, though, believe that by picking up the additional property, that the lot coverage, the total impervious area on lot 26 is going to be brought conforming. Currently, it exceeds that permitted and will be brought underneath. Then with regard to the Mahaney property and the Cars side lot line, you can see for Shannon Mahaney, the property of the Cars is so directly in front of her house that from the street, it's the perception that the boundary lines are fine, but they're not. What you're dealing with is a situation that although these neighbors are all reasonable and careful of their rights and the neighbors' rights, nonetheless, when you walk out the front yard, you're walking into somebody else's property. This adjustment by her conveying this area of property to the Cars, or no, she gets this area of property from the Cars, and then in the back, she's conveying this area to the Cars. So what happens is she is receiving 604 square feet, and the Cars are receiving 605 square feet. So there's a trade-off in terms of the lot area. And what this does in terms of a benefit for the property owners, it allows them to eliminate the existing common driveway. So what will happen is there's a 20-foot wide easement now. That will be vacated if the board approves this application. The driveways will be split. The astute Krista Anderson pointed out that once the driveways are split out of the common driveway, well, you still need a 2-foot setback for each driveway. That was overlooked, and we're asking for a variance from the board to allow for each driveway to have less than a 2-foot setback so that there's flexibility as these new driveways are put in place. So rather than having 4 feet between the 2 driveways, it would be reduced in an amount necessary to achieve the division of the 2 driveways, and therefore everybody owns their own property in that regard. The other observation, I think this came from Mr. Behrens, was that the patio that's being proposed does not meet the 12-foot setback. Through the activities and the careful draftsmanship by Jack Kelly, the patio will conform. We're not asking for a variance with regard to the patio. Likewise, that adjustment in the patio does not change the lot coverage, so that from the board engineer's perspective, we're still well under the 300 square feet that would require stormwater management. So this is a minor subdivision with variances associated with the existing structures. The Cars property is going to have an addition put on the back. The garage is also going to be improved to have the roof pitch consistent with the principal building, but really the variances are generated not with the addition, but with the existing structures. Unless there's any questions of me, I would ask that Andrew Clark, the professional engineer, be called to the stand to give testimony in this matter.
The board members have a question for Mr., at this point for the introduction by the attorney. Steve?
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll swear in all the witnesses.
Please,
but I'd
yeah.
first like to just let the record reflect, I did have an opportunity to review the notice, found the content to be sufficient, found it to be
thank you.
timely served. Certified mail December 9, published both December 6th and December 8th in separate official newspapers. All those dates at least 10 days prior to this evening, so the board does have jurisdiction to hear and decide the case, and I'll swear in all the witnesses as well as our board professionals. If you'll all raise your right hand. Do all of you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks very much. All right, Jim, back to you.
If I could ask that Mr. Clark be called to the stand to testify. Mr. Clark, I'm showing the board your plans that you've prepared
We
in
need to
connection.
qualify this witness, just to be sure. I know you've appeared before the board before, but can you give us a little overview of your practice and experience? And
Certainly.
by the way, you did the land survey for my home, so just to let you know. A long time ago, a long time ago.
That happens a lot. Sometimes I recognize the people and sometimes I
Yes,
don't.
well, that was a long time ago.
I am a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor in the state of New Jersey. My license is currently in good standing. I practice mostly in the local area. My offices are in Chatham. I spend most of my time in front of boards, in front of Summit. Typically the zoning board is I'm more frequently in front of. Chatham Borough, I've been in front of both boards. Chatham Township, I was in front of the planning board on Monday night. Florham Park and Madison, both planning and zoning boards. So I've
And you're a registered engineer and a professional surveyor and both of those
Yes.
things, right?
And I conducted the survey for this project as well as the proposed plan was prepared by me.
Anyone of the members of the board have any questions with regard to qualifications? Okay, thank you. So deemed qualified, thanks.
You're familiar with the application that's currently pending before the board?
I am.
How did you achieve that familiarity?
Well, I was first contacted by Mr. Carr with discussion with the owner of Lot 25, the larger parcel to the right. They were discussing a land exchange or transfer of a piece of property, and then over time, this grew to what it is now. It just so happens I had already done the survey for the purchase of Lot 27 previously, so it worked out nicely in terms of marrying all that information together.
And you're familiar with the city of Summit and its regulations?
I am. Quite.
And in terms of the description, can you refer to the proposed subdivision map and reiterate and describe in greater detail that which I've touched upon?
Sure. And since you have the tech all set up, it might be easier to use this.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, just for confirmation, these are the plans that were submitted with the application materials?
That's correct.
Okay.
No
need to-
changes made.
No need to mark them as an exhibit, as you know. If you could just give us the last revised date or issue date if there was no
I
revision.
believe it was no revision, August 10th, 2022.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to sort of home in for a moment here on the area that's of most primary focus here. As I said, we began discussion, the cars and the owner of Lot 25, about this triangular piece, which I've labeled Parcel C. Originally, the intent was, as you can see, the existing boundary line cuts down at an angle such that, you look at your front door and you're basically looking at the front corner of the neighboring property. The interesting thing about this whole application is that as a practical matter, anyone walking down the street or observing these properties, there'll be no change effectively because you can't see the boundary lines. They're not painted out on the ground. So that's also part of the reason why this makes sense for the individual owners because the way this arrangement is very unusual to have, less than a foot offset from your front corner of your house, and part of what would appear to be your front yard is actually the neighbor's yard. So for example, you have landscapers or people that are coming to service HVAC equipment. They don't understand that, and effectively they're probably trespassing sometimes, which these neighbors get along, obviously, or we wouldn't even have gotten to this point, but neighbors don't always get along, in my experience. In addition to that, you could foresee a condition where someone, if one of the properties changed hands, somebody could put up a fence, let's say, or occupy their property within reason, put up even landscaping very adjacent to the car's property. So they wanted to sort of head that off while they do have a friendly neighborhood relationship and create the arrangement that we see now. So the discussion was to normalize with this new subdivision line, this new lot line, or the adjustment to the lot line, normalize that arrangement so that the front yard is effectively the front yard, and we have a bit of a side yard to the dwelling that we don't have now. That then grew to say, well, look, if we're going to go through this effort and end up in front of the board, let me talk to my neighbor on the other side who's new to the neighborhood, and they've already discussed, you know, how the shared driveway is a little bit of a challenge at times, and so they both were interested in separating those driveways to be two separate entrances to their properties. So in order to effect that change, we needed to take this parcel A and transfer it to lot 27, and what was discussed and arrived at was, in order for that part of it on the lot 27 side to make sense, they wanted an even exchange of land. So not to have, you know, on the other side, there's a different arrangement, and so that parcel is being transferred outright to the cars. In this case, they wanted to exchange that in nearly the same land areas. It's 1 square foot off. You know, it's a little bit of a geometric exercise to get that to balance perfectly and combined with the boundaries. So I got as close as I could. And also wanted to keep it as normal as I could. So in the back, I made that line parallel with the existing line and offset. So that's where we ended up on the left side of this for the parcel B and A and B exchange. So what we end up doing in all of this is we create a side yard for the cars that's now not only not conforming but very unusual. We get something that's relatively reasonable, 10.35, while it doesn't meet the 12 is much closer, and in some zones 10 foot is an acceptable side yard. So it's bringing it closer to compliance. Unfortunately, it doesn't get us all the way there, so that is a variance. In addition to that, even though we're adding that side yard as was described before, and in fact we're getting a little more side yard on the left side with what's happening between lot 27, we're still short on the combined side yard for the lot configuration. So that's another variance. What we are also accomplishing is a number of positive things. So in addition to the side yard, we bring the lot coverage into compliance by the addition of land in the center lot, the car lot. And on the left side, we bring the existing front of that house for lot 27 was non-conforming, and it will now be conforming for the side yard. And the combined side yard is conforming. So we get a number of positive benefits out of that, in addition to the functional benefit of the driveway being separated. So no fist fights or snowball fights in the driveway over the shared nature of it. I think shared driveways can be a good idea, but I think it's more in history that they were a good idea than recently. My involvement in shared driveways through almost my entire career has been people wanting to separate them. So we're going back that way now. That's the basic summary. I think that on balance, as I said, you can't really, there's no discernible difference from the streetscape and from any observers. The houses along the frontage are not changing. Front setbacks aren't changing. There's nothing occurring substantively to any of the frontages. So people will see the same thing before and after the subdivision. There are a number of benefits, so I think, in my view, this is all benefit and no adverse impact, no downside to the subdivision. I understand in some of the comments, there are comments in there which I take no issue with, that at some point we'll need to produce a grading plan to properly permit. Yeah, sure.
Talking about the comments,
Sure.
you're referring to the engineer's comments that
I
have
am.
been produced by Colliers. What's the date of that report? It's also in the...
So that memo is December 13th.
And that's been prepared by whom?
I believe Ms. Sheth prepared it. Did you prepare it?
And Christopher.
Okay, it was a team effort.
Team effort.
So when you're referring to the board engineer's comments, you're referring to that report that's been presented to the board.
That is correct.
And you've indicated that you're not taking any exceptions to the requests that have been presented by Ms. Cheth or Mr. Dewar?
Not at all, not at all.
Requirements?
Not at all. And many of the comments, as I said, would be things that would come into effect if the subdivision was approved and they're moving forward permitting for the improvements to Lot 26 and the driveway. Those would require topographic survey and grading plan as any permitted project would require in Summit.
And Mr. Chairman, if the board approves the application, the applicants agree to have the report issued as a condition of that approval.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And not that I take issue, but I did want to point out that the lot coverage for Lot 26, with regards to the stormwater, it's indicated that there's an increase of about 180 square feet. My calculations show that we're actually decreasing it a bit. So it's still, the net effect is the same, that we don't have to put stormwater management in if we're below 300. So we're a little bit better than what's reported by my calculations.
And did you have a chance to review the report of Burgess Associates? And I believe that was prepared by Tom Behrens, and that would be the report that's dated December 13th, 2022.
That's correct.
And
I did.
did you have any exceptions with regard to what was provided with regard to his report?
Well, it seems that there may be, I guess, a difference of perspective on the lot area, the proposed lot area for Lot 26, proposed lot area for Lot 27, and the lot width for Lot 27. In this reference report, it's indicating those are variances, but Krista didn't flag them as variances.
If I can be heard with regard to that?
Sure. You know, I don't want to get them into a fist fight either, so.
Perhaps I can touch on those two, because it is a subdivision application, recognizing that no new lots are being created, and it's essentially to improve the shared lot lines via lot line adjustment. I noted these as a technical matter because it is a subdivision application whereby the boundaries are being changed. I take no exception or object to what's being proposed, but as a technical matter, I raise those as potential variances. So,
Understood.
without further ado, Mr. Weber, did you have?
Thank you. We had the opportunity to speak with Krista Anderson. Her perception is that the intent of the ordinance is that when a new lot is created, that the new lot would then be subject to the averaging lot area and lot width. It is not something that would apply to existing developed properties where no new lot is being created. It's in terms of, as Mr. Behrens points out, because it's really more of a technical discussion rather than anything of any real impact, since all we're doing is shifting the lines a little bit. One of the lots is giving up 605 and getting 604, so it's an academic exercise. We'll be guided by what your attorney and Mr. Behrens provides.
Just about to ask Steve for a little comment on the technical nature of that.
Well,
New lot versus existing lot.
certainly, and the interpretation as conveyed by Mr. Weber on behalf of Krista Anderson, frankly, we should also have our planner weigh in. But if he agrees, then it's certainly a reasonable interpretation, and this board has the authority to make interpretations in the context of hearing a development application. It's a reasonable interpretation based upon the intent as expressed that indeed the lot area averaging need not require variances. I should say that the average lot areas would not changes would not or deviations would not require variance relief under these circumstances. So if I'm hearing Mr. Dewar correctly.
Mr. Behrens.
I'm sorry, Mr. Behrens. I'm sorry.
I defer to Krista Anderson, who's been the gatekeeper of Summit Zone for a while. And I believe the intent of these averages is specifically for, to address larger lots that are being carved up. So, again, I think the intent is as such.
again, maybe the better way to look at, you know, my zoning table is that I acknowledge that there are deviations, but perhaps that no variance relief is actually required. So,
That often happens with existing nonconformities, and particularly when they're not exacerbated. They're pointed out as a technical deviation, but they don't require variance relief.
Good, thanks.
Well, that's another good point also, that these particular items are not exacerbated. To the extent they don't conform, they're actually getting better than what the existing conditions are. So, you know, in a overall picture, I would retain the same testimony that there's no negative impact as a result of those differences.
Other than that, Mr. Clark, were there any further comments with regard to the report of Mr. Behrens? And I'm not sure if there were any questions that you had, Mr. Behrens, or you had, Ms. Steph, of the witness.
The only question or clarification I would want, and I think you kind of touched upon this, but the parcel C that's being transferred to 26, lot
Right.
26, there's no change in land coverage that would increase the lot coverage of any impervious area?
Within that area, no.
No, okay.
No, and any lot coverage changes, which are primarily resulting from the driveway differences,
Yeah.
have been accounted for in all my tabulation.
Okay.
And so in that triangle, there are no hard surfaces, hardscaping, structures of any kind that would contribute to coverage.
Okay, thank you.
So, just quickly, you addressed my issue with the patios, and that's no longer a problem. Do you happen to know the setbacks of the driveways? And the only reason I ask is because, you know, now you have a single driveway for certain,
Right.
you'll have two new driveways, and I think it might be a good idea to have a functional planting area. And so if it's too narrow, you end up with, you know, gravel or a dust bowl, you know, to have something that would be nice to divide it, right? You know, if it's 2 feet, you have an idea?
Yeah, I think it's at the narrowest point between the driveways, I think it's just a bit over 2 feet between them.
Accommodate some greenery perhaps?
Probably, you know what, I would think in that kind of a space, most likely what you would get is ground cover type of greenery. I think shrubbery at that point, it's not really, I found that as a practical matter in the field, even 4 feet is a little tight, depending on what you choose to plant there, because if you put certain kinds of shrubs, at some point it starts encroaching on the driveway, and needs such aggressive maintenance that it's almost counterproductive. You know, I look at this from the standpoint that these two neighbors have been effectively sharing this driveway space for all this time. And so their fundamental purpose here is not to create a screen where they're not, you know, interacting so much as it is to just separate the driveways themselves, so that when the curb is damaged, or you need to redo the pavement, or snow plowing, or any of those things, that it's two separate elements. So I understand your point. I think it's a little difficult to achieve in this case, not only because of the driveways are already only 10 feet wide, and then you have the houses on both sides sort of constraining the arrangement there. So I think it's very difficult to achieve. I think we're better served by having the variance relief granted, to, as Mr. Weber said, to allow that flexibility when we're redoing the driveways.
I'll leave it to the board. I have no
Okay,
further
thanks. Any questions the board members have of this witness?
Have you addressed you mentioned the garage in the back was not in a proper rear yard, and that, was there a variance required on this? Or are you going to address that later?
Well, I'll talk about it right now. What's existing there, as you can see, is 6.2 feet at the front garage corner. The back is 7.7. So with the subdivision line, if approved, would move that 6.2 to be 11 feet, 10.95, 11 feet for the front corner. The rear corner would be slightly more than 12 feet. So because of the difference in the direction of the garage and the angle of the line. So it's a little bit short, about a foot short on the front, and I think the thinking was it was not specifically flagged as a variance by Krista, though she discussed the garage and recognized that there's an existing non-conforming setback, and you know, I don't have it labeled on here what the actual proposed setback would be, but I did check that, and it's 11 feet. So I guess the question is, it seems to me that it might make sense to grant that or view that as a variance so that if something happens with a garage and needs to be reconstructed, the condition is recognized. You know, obviously, that's for the board to consider and debate.
Mr. Weber, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the prudent of the applicant to ask, in my opinion, and from a legal perspective, the notice that was provided had the catch-all, the appropriate catch-all language, so certainly the board has the jurisdiction to grant the additional bulk variance of the 1 foot on the garage setback deviation.
Mr. Weber, your thoughts on that?
It's the same, Mr. Chairman. It's something that we do ask that you allow us to amend the application to request that additional 1 foot on the garage, so that, as been indicated by Mr. Clark, in the event that the existing non-conforming structure is damaged, there's the ability to put it back without having to come back to a board for the 1 foot variance.
It would seem that would be to the benefit of the property owner. Any of the board members have any thoughts or prefer not to do that, one or the other?
I think it's a practical solution.
Okay.
Practical.
Okay, Mr. Weber,
Thank
that
you.
makes sense, yeah. All right. Any other questions of Mr. Clark? Is there any members of the audience here interested in this case? I know I see Jack here, but no members of the public, as I meant to say, in the audience. All right, so do we have additional presentation from
We
additional
have
expert?
available, Jack Kelly, the architect,
Okay.
has indicated the improvements that have been proposed are not the ones that have created the subdivision, nor have generated the variances, but he's available so that the board can be apprised of their full knowledge of this application.
From your perspective, Tom, anything relative to the architectural plans or any questions related to the
I have no questions.
architecture?
That lot in particular where the improvements to the dwelling are proposed, most of the conditions, existing non-conforming conditions are being improved. So I don't see any
Dick, do you have any questions from the architect at all?
The
Would you
only
ask?
clarification I would ask for is the proposed patio is shown on the minor subdivision plan dated August 10, 2022. Is there a proposed patio, or is it just the two grayed out?
So what the proposed improvements for the additions in the patio were based upon design development with the cars and, you know, with Jack's office.
Okay.
And so I produced those on here so that we were providing full disclosure that, you know, this was in the works.
Okay.
And to give context that it doesn't bear on any of the variances or the relief that we're seeking. But the patio has been revised, it hasn't made it to my plan yet.
I see.
So if approved, the subdivision would go forward, and then there would be a separate set of plans with topography and grading and everything that would need to be done for any permitting effort that would reflect this conforming patio arrangement.
I see.
We have available, Mr. Chairman, the plan that has been prepared by Jack Kelly, if I can approach.
Sure, yeah, sure. And I guess
If
from
we
the
can
board
have this
members,
marked.
perspective, would anybody like to just hear an overview from your architect about the house and about the improvements there? Would that be of any benefit to us? I think it might be a good idea just to hear.
I can do it in 3 minutes, Bill.
Yeah, I think perhaps Jack would be a good idea.
You've got 3 minutes, good.
Okay, clock starts.
There was a TV show about that, wasn't there?
May I get that? I'll pass that.
Thanks.
Jim, are the architectural plans in here as well?
They are,
Do you know where?
probably at the top.
Full page. There's no page down, is there? Then we'll just go.
Sorry,
And
John, I
while we're
was
doing
calling
that,
you.
Mr.
calling
Kelly,
you Jack.
you've been sworn in. And could you recite your qualifications for the board?
Sure. My name is Jack Kelly. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I'm a partner at Rose & Kelly Conway here in Summit. I don't appear in front of the planning board very often, but I've probably appeared in front of the zoning board more than 100 times in Summit alone, over a period of 30 years. And I've appeared in I have been in front of the planning board a few times, but I haven't been here probably for 10 years.
Are you familiar with the application that's currently pending before the board?
I didn't finish my qualification.
Ms.
Yes, I am.
Do we need to qualify him as far as architectural qualifications? It sounds like you're a registered architect in the state of New Jersey.
Floor plans? I don't know floor plans in here. Floor plans, Jim?
No floor plans.
Yeah, just he's got the
3
rear
minutes,
rear
Mr.
elevation
Kelly.
and then the garage. is at the end.
So, Mr. Kelly, just to finish the
Ticking.
qualifications, you're a
Yes, sir.
registered architect in the state of New Jersey, and your license is in good standing?
Yes.
All right. Anybody have any questions with regard to Mr. Kelly's qualifications?
Did members of the board get this?
I don't, not yet.
No, we're passing it down.
Let's pass it
Okay,
on.
very good.
All right, hearing none, Mr. Kelly will deem you qualified.
We don't seem to have the floor plans on this, on the laptop, but I can just tell you, we're doing a few things. So
We do have them here, too.
We're proposing an addition in the rear of the house, a one-story addition to enlarge the existing kitchen. We're going to remove an existing deck in the rear corner where the new addition is proposed. We're going to remove a non-conforming patio that's on the right-hand side of the house, and we're going to replace that with a new patio, which, if you have the drawing in front of you, is now conforming. In response to the comments from the officials, we have reconfigured the geometry of the patio so that we don't have that variance anymore, and we will be conforming at a 12-foot setback. We're also making some improvements to the detached garage. We're going to remove the roof and raise it in an effort to make it a little bit more complementary to the main house, a little bit more architecturally, aesthetically pleasing, I guess, and a little bit more functional as far as storage.
Isn't that also a point that's within the DRO where they want the roof pitch on the accessory structure to be similar to that of the principal structure?
Yes, they've changed the ordinance in recent years to allow for that. Right now, it's a very plain, vanilla, utilitarian kind of looking garage. It's only 13 feet tall. So it has limited storage and in the roof space. So we're adding 3 feet to that, and so the new structure will be 16 feet tall, which complies with the ordinance.
I believe that there is a elevation of the garages. All right. Want me to get it for you?
Sure.
I should probably have Mr. Clark do this.
So essentially, we're going to remove the roof and we're going to rebuild it with a slightly steeper pitch. We're going to change the overhead garage doors, as you can see, add some windows to the side, and just make it a more attractive building. The variance associated with this, I think, was covered by Mr. Clark. Since the garage is not fully in the required rear yard, it has to meet the setbacks for the principal structure, which in this zone is 12 feet. We are improving from 6.2 to 11. Just a little sliver of the garage will be non-conforming.
I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kelly, I had just one question on a note on the garage elevation on the far right.
Sure.
There's a note, it says new northern windows and exterior French doors with painted wood trim to match. I'm not sure whether the note is incorrect or whether the drawing may not be correct. It shows 3 windows there, but in the note it says something about French doors. So I didn't know if that was an error note
Can we
or.
expand it?
You're looking at the house.
No, I'm looking at the garage, right, exactly the elevation that you have up there on the far right of the garage.
There's no.
Yeah, 3 windows there in the middle. The drawing on the far right. There's just a note here. Jack, that's something about French doors.
Okay, I apologize.
So it may be just an error, no error.
That's just a note that was probably copied from the main house to this. There's no French doors.
That's the only question I have. Anyone else have any questions of Mr. Kelly?
I would just say that the additions to the house don't require any variances unto themselves. We're not exceeding the building coverage, the lot coverage, or the floor area ratio.
Tom, you're okay with
Just one thing, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just since the board did get the proposed site plan with alternate patio configuration distributed, if we could just have that marked as Exhibit A1 for the record. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Thank you. Sorry for going over 3 minutes.
He's trying to make it more brief next time. So, Mr. Weber, anything, any point where you,
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman. I would submit the application to the approval of the board.
could you just run through for the record, if it's okay, just to know what the variances are that you request?
The variances, as recited in Krista Anderson's report, she has the side yard variance, the combined side yard variance, we add the garage variance, and we add the driveway setback variances.
So the garage setback 11 feet versus 12 feet.
Yes,
The driveway setback for both lots 26 and 27 is under 2 feet, whereas 2 feet is required.
the representation that was made during the course of the testimony was that the driveways would be 2 feet, 1 foot from the,
About a foot versus the 2-foot required.
Right, foot each, if you will.
thank you.
And the side yard setback for lot 26, 10.35 versus 12 feet required. The combined side yard setback, 32.4% versus 35% required for lot 26, those being the 4 bulk variances, and then it's a minor subdivision of 3 lot line adjustments. Actually, maybe 2 lot line adjustments, right? 3 lots.
Two lot lines. 3 parcels that make up that up, but it's.
Sometimes we,
Two lots.
attorneys can do the math.
So in general, you're agreeing to the comment in the Burgess memo and the Collier's memo with the exception of the definition of the new lots versus old lots underneath the lot average.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And then there's only one comment that I saw here from the Environmental Commission, looking at all the various comments we had from staff members. The Environmental Commission suggesting that where you are doing that, if you are adding native trees and shrubs based on the Rutgers list of native plants, is any planting or anything going on?
Nothing's proposed at this time. John Linson had also reported on this, and he had found all the landscaping to be sufficient.
Right. And then one comment from the Environmental Commission, another comment was, the Environmental Commission recommends that the applicant consider maximizing energy efficiency with Energy Star HVA systems and hot water heaters. So, I guess it's that Mr. Kelly would be, if those systems are going to be changed, you would recommend that anyway.
The entire heating and air conditioning system is going to be replaced, so we can address that.
All right, so the Environmental Commission, as I said, recommends that you consider Energy Star systems.
All of these reports have been distributed to all of the applicants and specifically to the cars.
Remember, the boards have any questions of the witnesses or of Mr. Weber? No members of the public present at all? So I think this probably can close the hearing and have a debate among the board members. Anyone have any thoughts or observations?
Mr. Chairman, I think this application is an improvement and addresses a sort of a strange historical problem with those lot lines. So I would be in favor of, and I think the variances being requested are de minimis and certainly justified.
Anyone else, any thoughts?
Well said, John, thank you. I agree totally. It's de minimis, and the changes that are being proposed are improvements.
All
I
any
compliment
thoughts?
those of you who put
I
it.
agree, I mean, I think it actually gets us closer to what we require, right? So, I got no issues with it.
Danny?
Yeah, same, there's just so many benefits to what this proposal is showing us.
Well, I sort of concur with the board members. I must say that I have to give Mr. Clark and the whole team an A for creativity. When I started reading the write-ups from Krista, I got confused. I said, let me go look at the drawings. And once I looked at the drawings, I said, oh, I get it. how you negotiated all that is pretty amazing, I'll say that much.
It's unusual.
Yeah, it is unusual, so, congratulations to whoever pulled that negotiation off. It was quite interesting and creative, for sure. I think so. So I think at this point, if I can entertain a motion to approve in a second.
So moved?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, who moved it?
Board Member Stern, I think, moved it?
Okay,
And a motion in a second.
okay. Chairman Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Zucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Stern.
Yes.
All right. Very good.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Weber,
Chairman.
thank you. Mr. Clark and Mr. Kelly, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And I think Tom and Dippy, I think your job is finished. Thank you very much for being here. It's good to see you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy the holidays. We'll see you next year.
Have a great holiday.
Yeah.
It's good to have nice neighbors.
Yeah.
Really.
See you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, does
That's
Steph
mine.
need this?
Yeah, that comes back to, I think the Stephanie will want to have that. Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks. Thanks, Paul.
thank you.
All right. All right, we just have a little, we don't need Bridget anymore, right? Yeah, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty impressed, frankly. Yeah. All right. I'll wait for the buzz to calm down. Good night, everybody.
You coming tomorrow?
I'll give you the unvarnished.
Okay, yes.
Bridget, thanks you. You're done for the evening. Thank you very much. Happy holidays to you. Yeah, happy holidays. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we're celebrating going home before midnight.
That's right.
Yeah.
From now on, we're going to hold it to 3 minutes. You got to top it. You got to top it.
Well, we got just a couple of things left to do. We've got some minutes to approve, to review and approve from the last meeting. Anybody have any thoughts or comments on the meeting minutes from November 28th?
That was a short meeting.
It was a short meeting.
It was
I
a-
like those meetings.
They kind of looked fine to me.
I-
Wasn't too tough.
I have read them, and Stephanie and I have gone back and forth a little bit on them. They look fine to me. Anybody have any comments? All right, so we need to take a voice vote, I guess, with regard to the minutes approval. So I need a motion and a second, or just a voice vote?
Motion second and a voice.
Right, I need a motion for approval of the minutes.
I move that they be approved.
Okay, a movement and a second. We'll give Matthew a second. Very good, okay. John, motion, Matt, second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Of course, if anyone was absent, it's an abstention. as you know.
Then we have a calendar that Stephanie sent out by email a couple of days ago. And a couple of adjustments were made from the preliminary draft of this from about a month ago. And if you all, as board members, can just look over the dates. Everybody got this one?
So if anyone needs copies, I can
Yeah.
definitely circulate it. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, if I could see that.
I'll just pass it down.
All right.
Actually, can I have one?
Sure.
Just in case, yeah.
I think mine is the same. Because I printed mine out there tonight, so it's the
My
same.
old email
Yep,
from
okay.
sister. I periodically check.
You need it?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't need it.
Yeah. Will be,
Okay.
It was spring.
July 1.
July 1, yes.
So the December 20 is moved again because we have a council meeting the 19th, I think, is that right, of December?
I believe, yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, all right. Any comments or questions?
So
on
the
calendar?
23rd, okay. No, it's just,
seems like it was just 2000 a few years ago.
Did you see that?
Oh, that's really scary.
Oh,
It's
that's horrifying.
Is this something we need to have a vote on? you think?
I don't know what
We
we
need to vote on this
typically do for this.
calendar?
Do we-
You don't need to vote on the calendar per se, but if everyone is approving of the calendar, that's what you'll use for publishing in official two newspapers for 2023,
Yeah.
and then the reorg 2024.
Right.
Good
Good night. Thank you.
Night.
Yep. All right, so reorg January, well, we have a reorg
And
coming up.
actually,
Yes.
technically, at the reorg, I think it'll also be approved. That's usually how it's handled.
Okay, so we bring it back up during the meeting next month
Okay.
for the, coming here, for the
Yeah, I
reorg.
just wanted to get it settled
Yeah.
because the clerk's office has been asking me about the dates, so I just wanted.
Okay. All right, well, looks good. So I will go with that. And we have to go into executive session briefly tonight to get a little bit of an update from the folks that attended the meeting with Colliers. Unfortunately, I was at a business call come up and I had to miss that meeting. But for those of you who attended that meeting, can you give us some thoughts in terms of your, what you learned from that meeting? We have to,
Yeah, we should have a motion, a second.
yes, you're right, to go into executive session, yes.
Yeah, to go into executive session. Chris Sobieski is attorney-client
your
privilege,
office.
he's my counsel.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
Co-counsel.
that's what I thought. Okay,
He's
yeah.
counsel's counsel.
Yep, so I need
And,
a,
so
yeah.
he can be
Yes.
president if you
Yeah,
don't mind, but yeah, motion, a second.
Yeah, so we have a
And
motion to go into
go to
executive session. And a second?
Second.
Second, all right, from John. All
And then
right.
should I do a roll call vote or?
Well, we're going into executive, you should do a roll call vote, because
Yeah.
technically it is a resolution. And
Okay.
just for that resolution is to discuss personnel issues, which is one of the exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act in the statute. So the board is authorized, therefore, to go into executive session, a closed
And
session.
it should also be noted, no decision will be made in executive session.
No decision is ever, yet no formal action is
Right.
ever taken in executive
And
session.
nor will we be making a decision afterwards.
This evening, I guess we won't be.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll call
Public
the,
sticking around for.
Absolutely.
all right, I'll call the roll then. Chairman Anderson,
Yes, present.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Present.
Mr. Delory,
Yes?
Councilmember O'Sullivan,
Present.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Present.
Mr. Stern.
Okay, very good. All right, so now those of you that sat in with Chris Dorr and Dipty, Sheth, could you give us sort of an